So EatWell DC started with Grillfish, which was their first restaurant, started in 1996. And the farm was a dream for a long time of the owners, and they spent some time looking for the right property, and they bought this farm about 4.5 years ago, and this is the farm's 4th year in production. So every day at EatWell is a little bit different. During the summer, when I'm really harvesting a lot of food, I harvest twice a week, so that would be on Monday and Thursday. So those are harvest days, and that's all day spent harvesting, cleaning, weighing, packing. And then Tuesday morning and Friday morning, I get here pretty early, harvest a couple of herbs and flowers, the more delicate crops, and then I drive in, deliver to all 5 of the restaurants. And then I usually come back and work on different projects. Could be weeding, it could be planting, it could be trellising tomatoes, anything that needs to be done. And then that leaves Wednesday, and usually Saturday are sort of catch-all days where I can do whatever needs to be done. This time of year, it's a lot of turning beds over from spring crops to fall crops. So I get here in the morning and work on pulling out old crops, prepping beds, and then planting new crops for the fall. Or I do maintenance on crops that are already there, like tomatoes are pretty high maintenance. They need to be trellised regularly. They need to be checked for disease. I need to make sure that if there are any pest infestations that we're staying on top of those, which we do with all organic methods. So those are sort of project days where I catch up on everything else. We try to make sure that our guests at the restaurants know about the farm. We want to be able to connect them to the food, so we want them to know that we're out here just a mile away trying to grow really high quality, delicious produce. So we have different ways for them to get involved, and that includes 3 times a year we're doing a seasonal open house at the farm where you can come out in the morning and do a couple of hours of farm work with me, so you can sort of get your hands dirty and get connected to the earth and to the food. And then after that, we'll have a tour, and then we offer lunch that one of our chefs prepares. And I think the next one is actually September 27th, so it's in a couple weeks. And we're going to meet out at the farm at 10 a.m., do some work together, have a tour, and then have lunch by Chef Carrie at the Heights. And then we may do a little bit more work. We're also going to have some games. So that's the big thing, is our 3 seasonal field days where we invite everyone out. We also welcome visitors and volunteers anytime, and you can always set that up just by emailing me, and you can find me on our website. We started our CSA, which is Community Supported Agriculture, this year, and the reason we started it is because we did a lot of big improvements to the farm this spring. We added a new field, we added a high tunnel, we added a greenhouse, and all those things add up. And the advantage of the CSA for the farmer is that the customer pays up front, which is when all the farmer's expenses happen. And then the advantage for the customer is that throughout the year, they get whatever is freshest and best that week in their box that I take into town, and they get to enjoy the freshest local produce. So it works out well for everybody. So that's why we started it this year, and we hope to do it again next year. So the farm actually grew out of the restaurants. So the restaurants existed first, and our owners specifically David Weiner and Josh Hahn and Tony Okendo, always wanted to have a farm. They wanted to provide more local produce, and they were having trouble sourcing it locally at a cost that would keep the price points on the menus low enough to keep the customers happy. So they wanted the good quality food, and they thought maybe the best way to provide it would be to grow it themselves. And they did. For the first 2 years they grew out here while running 5 restaurants, which is pretty impressive. And then they brought me on 2 years later. So the partnership has always been there because the farm exists, because of the dream of the restaurant owners. EatWell DC does a lot with the community. They work a lot with Food and Friends, which is an organization that brings meals to people who are homebound with illnesses. They do Dining Out for Life with Food and Friends every year. They do Chef's Best, which is a really nice event in the spring every year. They partner with other community groups like City Dog Rescue. So they just did a Dine Out for that. I think they do it every August, and it's bigger and better every year. So they have an arm of EatWell that's called GiveWell, and they make sure to do at least 3 Dine Out events every year to support local charities. And then we're trying to add to that with the farm, just again by giving another opportunity for people to get connected with where the food comes from. So the farm has pretty much an open door policy that anyone's welcome to come out, check out what we're doing. Let me know in advance. I'll give you a tour. If you're interested, I'll always take help if you ever want a volunteer opportunity. We're trying to work with maybe some Girl Scout, Boy Scout groups, and we're talking with DC schools this year to try and get into the schools with some fresh produce and talk to the students about the farm. I think everyone can grow their own food. You may have a patio, you may only have room for one other plant or a couple of herbs, but those things that you grow yourself are always going to taste the best and be the best for you. So that's one thing. If you need help with that, just come on out and spend a day with me and I'll try to give you some tips. Beyond that, buying local food I think is the best way to make sure you're getting healthy food, because you can talk directly to the farmer, you can find out what their practices are, ask questions. There's all kinds of ways to educate yourself about what you're putting in your body. And if anyone wants to start their own farm, that's a big step. There are a lot of apprenticeships. That's how I got started. So that's a great way to learn if you're just looking to get into it. Volunteering with local farmers, because they always need help, and that's another great way to get your hands dirty. And just getting involved in your community of agriculture. We have a guy down the road who sells local meat that he raises without hormones and antibiotics, and his animals are pastured. So you can actually go to the farm and see what they're doing and know that they're not hiding anything from you. Then you know you're getting better food than you get from the grocery store, where everything is, that whole production process is really hidden from us because they know if we saw it we wouldn't eat it. I'm inspired a lot by other farmers that I have met and worked with. The farm that I apprenticed at outside of Atlanta, and another one that I worked at also outside of Atlanta, they were Birch Plantation and Crystal Organic Farm. I keep in touch with both of those farmers, their mentors. I call them when I have questions. And then just meeting other farmers in the community. We've got a lot of great things going on even especially in southern Maryland. Hancock Family Farms is the one I mentioned that does the hormone-free, antibiotic-free, free-range. They do beef, pork, eggs. There's Prickly Pear Produce, which is my neighbor Becky. She grows organically. She just started her own operation, so I think that's really brave and awesome. You should check her out. And they do good stuff at the Acake Foundation. Azure Bee is in southern Maryland. So I get a lot of my inspirations just from other farmers who are out here doing the work and sharing knowledge, and we all learn from each other. What do I love most about the DMV? I'm new here, so I moved here for this job from Atlanta, and so I'm not a big fan of the winter, but what I do love is there's so much to do in DC. I love that I live in a kind of a rural area. I live outside of the city. I'm out here in the country every day in the fresh air. You know, you can hear the crickets, and there's wild turkeys and owls, and it's beautiful. But I can drive 45 minutes, and I can be in a major cultural center. I can see great arts. I can go to the museums. There's always a lot to do. There's a lot of really good food in DC. We've got some great markets. So I think it's kind of the best of both worlds.